everybody? Welcome to BO Boys for Friday, December 9th. Fuck it. It's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat and Clayton. We got another weekend coming up with no big releases, some quick releases that we'll talk about, but we have big, gigantic box office Hollywood news that we're going to devote most of this episode to. And I think we got to kick off with this. Clayton, are you ready to talk about DC films, about Wonder Woman, about Black Adam, about James Gunn, about Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Are you ready for this?
I mean, listen, up until what? It was yesterday. I was ready to have kind of calm, sleepy sort of, you know, Father Stew's Eve kind of episode where we wait for him to be reborn this
Right.
weekend, and all of a sudden, it's just chaos.
It's chaos. I mean, we were prepared to do 30 minutes plus on Father Stew Reborn, on the re-release of Father Stew. That's what we were prepared to do. I don't think we're going to have that time to devote to Father Stew. So all of the Father Stew heads, all the reborners who wanted a full episode on the Father Stew re-release, we just can't do it because there is giant news that we have to cover.
And all the spoiler alertists who want us to
Mm-hmm.
talk about spoiler alert. Sorry, spoiler alert. We ain't talking about spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it's getting about 45 seconds at the end of the show. So
Mm-hmm.
there's your spoiler alert. That's the most we'll talk about spoiler alert, to be honest. Spoiler alert. We got to get into this right now, Clayton. Things are popping off over at Warner Brothers Discovery at DC. I'm going to give you a timeline and then we could go into it. So it started yesterday, started on Wednesday, December 5th, right? 7th. Wednesday, December 7th.
Yeah.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson tweeted out a deadline article, and we'll call it an article for now, but it's not. I
A
would.
press release.
He tweeted out a press release via Deadline, but he tweeted out a link to something in Deadline, and this was Dwayne The Rock Johnson's tweet, and I quote: "Waited to confirm with financiers before I shared this excellent hashtag Black Adam news. Our film will, all caps, profit between 52 and 72 million dollars. Fact. At almost 400 million worldwide, we are building our new franchise step by step. In parentheses, first Captain America did 370 million for the DC future." Tweeted out an article. What was that article? It was an article by Anthony D. Alessandro. D stands for Dwayne. And it
Mm-hmm.
was an article titled Dwayne Johnson DC pick Black Adam to profit. Here's how. And then in the article, which we'll go into more, it is basically Anthony D. Alessandro, D stands for Dwayne, making the case that Black Adam is profitable. He goes through the numbers just out of nowhere. Deadline decided to publish an article stating that this movie that came out in October is actually profitable. So there's that article.
Well, because Hollywood is always so upfront with their accounting.
Yes, they're famously known for very accurate and publicly true accounting. So that's that article that came out around the same time, and I was made aware of this by the great Rotus on Twitter at ROTANKWOT. So thank you, Rotus, great business reporter. Tweeted out, tagged us and Lucas Shaw, letting us know was really curious how Gal Gadot came out of nowhere 2 years after Wonder Woman 84 to thank fans for their support of the Wonder Woman films and state that another chapter for the character is in the work. So apparently Gal Gadot, apropos of nothing, tweeted out that she loves doing Wonder Woman, thanking the fans and looking forward to the next Wonder Woman. Again, out of nowhere, Dwayne The Rock Johnson tweeting out an article about how Black Adam's profitable. Gal Gadot tweeting out how much she loves doing Wonder Woman, thanking the fans, looking forward to the next installment. And then the other shoe dropped. And I think the reason why those articles and those tweets came out, it's clear because the Hollywood Reporter published an article later that night saying that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 not moving forward as DC movies hit a turning point. That article also talks about how it is unlikely that Black Adam will be moving forward. Basically, in that article, they talk about how James Gunn and his partner as the new head of DC Films, Peter Safran, they are switching things up, and a big part of that is to start ending, finally, editorially, finally for me, finally ending the Snyderverse aspect of DC films. Obviously, there are certain Snyderverse related films that have already been developed and produced and are coming out. Aquaman 2, Blue Beetle, Shazam 2, those are all coming out, but James Gunn looking to start a new DC universe, and that's going to include ending the Gal Gadot version of Wonder Woman, ending the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson version of Black Adam. That is what the Hollywood Reporter is saying. And then James Gunn today talking about that article in Variety and in a tweet. James Gunn had this to say about all of that. He finally addressed everything, and he said, in quote, "We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we could promise everything we do is done in the service of the story, the characters, DC characters we know you cherish. As for more answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters and stories the time and attention they deserve. We ourselves still have a lot more questions to ask and answer." So in that Variety article today, James Gunn said that, and apparently James Gunn and his co-head of DC Films, they're going to be presenting their 10-year plan for DC Films to Warner Discovery CEO David Zaslav next week. So those are the basics of what happened. Basically, James Gunn, DC Films, big changes coming. Those changes may include tossing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Black Adam overboard, tossing the Gal Gadot, Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman overboard, tossing the Snyderverse completely overboard. Aquaman is already overboard, but they're letting him stay out there. He ain't getting back on the boat. And that's where we're at, Clayton. So let's just get into the guy who I know you're chomping at the bits to talk about. What do you think of the way Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been handling things these last 2 days, and where he may be at with DC Films, state of Black Adam, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as a movie star? Give me some thoughts.
I mean, he's obviously out. I mean, there's no way he's not out. This was such a dumbfounding tweet, and
Okay.
the reason being is that it's a tweet for no one, because anybody in the industry or anybody with a working knowledge of the industry knows that this is all BS, right? These numbers are BS. It's not going to be profitable. And if you are a movie star and you have a hit movie, you do not have to tout it in a tweet. You don't have to say you talked to the financiers. Tom Cruise did not tweet, "Hey guys, I talked to the financiers. Looks like Top Gun Maverick's going to be in profit."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody in the industry is going to buy it. And then if you're a casual fan of The Rock, you're a guy, or a gal who works at a factory or works in, many factories, several factories to try and put food on the table for mother and baby, right? And you read this tweet, you're like, who cares? What are you even talking about? This movie came out, I saw it, it was okay, maybe I didn't like it, but you're talking about financiers, you're talking about profit, you're talking about comping to Captain America. That's your fan base, the jabronis that he calls fans, are going to be like, what is this shit? Why do we care about this? And then to comp his movie to Captain America, the first Avenger, which was right at the beginning when Marvel wasn't a powerhouse. It starred a guy whose claim to fame was two barely remembered or liked Fantastic Four movies and a very good parody film called Not Another Teen Movie.
Mm-hmm. And
Set in the
Cellular.
40s. And Cellular, set in the 40s, right? Back in 2000, what, 10 or 11? He's
Mm-hmm.
comping it to that? It's like, who let him tweet this? Who let him tweet this? It is truly confounding. You know, this is almost a Roseanne situation. It's like, was he on NyQuil? Was he on some sort of, did he take some sort of sleeping pill and think this was a good idea?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you think soon The Rock is going to have to come up retroactively with an excuse for his tweet? And again, this is how he starts the tweet. This is from the biggest movie star on the planet. Waited to confirm with financiers before I shared this excellent hashtag Black Adam news. Our film will profit between 52 and 72 million. Fact. So
And
that
great,
is a
your profit's
giant
a
movie
rounding
star.
error. Your
Mm-hmm.
profit, it's a rounding error, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's what your profit is. Your profit is not, number one, that profit doesn't exist. It's not going to profit. But even that profit is like, yeah, 72 million is nothing to sneeze at. But when you're talking about a mega corporation that's going to make decisions as to whether to spend another couple $100 million to continue this franchise, that means zip. It's nothing. It's so ridiculous. This tweet is one of the dumbest tweets I've ever seen in my life.
And the Deadline article that he tweeted out that does read as a press release for Dwayne The Rock Johnson and the Black Adam crew. They are factoring in PVOD into that. They're factoring in the money that Warner Brothers will make by selling it to itself on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
So that's included, they say, in home entertainment revenue of 86 million. They're factoring in what it's going to get on domestic free TV. So these
see,
are
all
this is
things.
not just box office. They're basically factoring in what it's going to make playing on TBS in the next 5 years.
Hypotheticals, and it's all downstream stuff that you look at when a movie is not a success at the box office, because that's why, you know, when the DVD market dried up, the DVDs saved a lot of movies and made a lot of filmmakers able to make other movies because their movies did well on home video. People bought them, right? That's when you look at these ancillary areas. I can't say it, but ancillary areas. That's when you look at those. You don't look at that now because that's proving that your movie was a failure theatrically. It's proving that this was a flop.
Right.
And the fact that he doesn't know that is ridiculous. How did nobody tell him? You don't want to show what your basic cable money is going to be because that is that's a consolation prize.
Right. It would be like, you know, think of some movies that famously became mega profitable because of the ancillary profits. You know, think of your Austin Powers in the late 90s. Mike Myers did not put a press release out in 1997 saying, fact, Austin Powers is now profitable thanks to Blockbuster Video Rentals. He didn't do that. And if you compare The Rock to gigantic all-time movie stars, which supposedly that's the field that he's playing on, I don't remember. And again, I haven't been following every step of his career because he existed in a time before me, but I don't remember Jack Nicholson ever putting out a statement that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is now profitable.
Or more so, it'd be great news.
Hmm.
wanted to wait until I talked to the financiers. Wolf is going to make a profit.
Yes, exactly. That is the perfect comp. Is something like Wolf that was an underperformer at the box office, but I'm sure cleaned up thanks to being a Sunday night movie on CBS, on Blockbuster video rentals, on pay cable reruns over and over again. At some point, Wolf became profitable, but Jack Nicholson did not put out a statement announcing that Wolf is now profitable, like The Rock did. It's a uh, listen. I've been on this for a long time. How Black Adam is a failure for Dwayne The Rock
Wow.
Johnson, and how this has got to be a come to Jesus or come to whatever your God is moment for Dwayne The Rock Johnson and his movie career, because he's obviously a giant movie star. He's obviously beloved. He's obviously had a lot of hits, has a lot of big franchises going. But as I have said on this show several times, Black Adam has become a problem for him. It's something that we all thought seemed like it was a slam dunk, could have jumpstart him into a whole new franchise, a whole new realm of stardom. And as I have said on this show, it did not happen. People did not love this movie. This movie did not take off the way it should have. And instead of dusting himself off and figuring out what went wrong and figuring out how to, right the ship and do something, make something that people truly want, instead, he seems to be clinging to this, as I've said before, what Black Adam is, this failure. He's clinging to it.
I mean, it's a delusion. And here's the thing, too, is like for the longest time, everybody was saying, "Oh, Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's the problem when it comes to these Fast and Furious movies. Why is Vin Diesel acting this way? The Rock is being treated badly by this guy who's delusional." And it's like, all right, they were both delusional. We found out that Vin Diesel and The Rock are two apples that fell not too far from the same tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
This makes him look bad. I mean, this isn't Billy Eichner calling people names for not seeing his movie bad, but this is like a roundabout way of telling people to shut up about how your movie's a failure in the same sort of way.
Yeah, it should be beneath stars to engage the audience at this level,
Mm-hmm.
and listen, the BO boys were at a high level. Scott Mendelson of Forbes, Jeff Bach of Relations Co. These, our fellow great box office analysts. In life, we are at a very high level. But even so, the movie stars should not be engaging us at the level of talking about box office analysis, talking in public
No.
about business analysis. We're at high levels, but we should be at different levels, different mountaintops. And when the movie stars come to this level, obviously we want movie stars in the show, and it's great we have movie stars getting to bask in their success on these shows, but to come and try and make excuses for box office and business, then it's taking them down to a place that they shouldn't be. And I just agree that Dwayne The Rock Johnson should not have done this. Now, we both know why he did this. I mean, do you think that this was anything other than a premeditated strike at James Gunn at DC Films, because he obviously knew it was coming, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, but but look, James, we did better than Captain America, the first Avenger. It's like, why would Gunn is not an idiot? Why would that be helpful to him? Like that's the thing is like, even if you're saying, look what I did, it's nothing. And the fact that he thinks that his fans are going to rally behind this and be like, James Gunn, don't you know this movie is going to profit $75 million? It's like we're talking about billions of dollars. We're talking
Right.
about multi-billion dollars is what the new DCU whatever it's going to be could generate. This is
Right.
like nothing. This
Right.
means nothing. They're going to, like I said, they're going to mount a Black Adam 2 because this thing is possibly, after it runs on TNT, going to eke out $50 million.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Counting ancillaries. I mean,
I
that is
can't.
what you are. You rarely laugh, Clayton, and you're
Yeah.
laughing because ancillaries are what the biggest movie star in the world is talking about.
I feel
And,
like I have the
and you,
Joker disease.
yeah, I mean, the Joker, that's the thing. Joker did not release a press release or tweet in fall of 2019 announcing great news. We have turned a profit. Joker did not
Yes.
say that because Joker made $1 billion at the box office in fall of 2019. The box office spoke for Joker. The Joker did not
Yes.
have to tweet fact profit. And you nailed it. This was not geared towards James Gunn in the sense that, of course, James Gunn has all these facts and figures. He has the real numbers. He knows how much Black Adam's going to make playing on TBS or what it did on PVOD these last. It's not about getting it to James Gunn. This is The Rock's attempt to create a hashtag release the Snyder cut
Mm-hmm.
type of online fervor from the fans. He wants the fans to basically do what the Snyderverse bots did this last 5 years and force Warner's hand and basically force them to release Black Adam 2. That's what he's trying. But again, I can't imagine a fan of Dwayne The Rock Johnson who is going to get worked up and need to start a letter writing campaign because they read a Deadline article about the ancillary profits and revenue streams for Black Adam that they
Mm-hmm.
saw. I read this article and Black Adam is generating $22 million in PVOD revenue. I've got to get on Twitter and make this my
And
life's
tout
mission to
this.
get Black Adam
Yeah.
2. The Rock's fans don't care. They want to watch Fast and Furious movies. They want to watch WrestleMania. They do not give a shit about this Deadline press release that The Rock put out. It doesn't matter.
Now, let's get to the deeper thing or the broader thing, which is that it's looking like, and even
Mm-hmm.
though James Gunn won't admit to, and of course he's not going to before he comes down from the mount and gives his, 10 new commandments of the DC universe, that it looks like all of these actors might be on the chopping block. I mean, the one that they're saying has a chance to stay, I mean, obviously, other than Cena, is Viola Davis.
Uh-huh.
And
In
I
the
mean,
Suicide
in the
Squadiverse. Yeah.
Suicide Squad. And I mean, that is a possibility because, I mean, when you look at the Spider Man movies, they brought back for this iteration the gentleman who played Jonah Jameson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And nobody was like, oh, that means that it's, they didn't read into it.
It's
He's
not
just
like
perfect
Sam Raimi's
casting.
coming back to Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect casting, and they did a good job with it, and people are okay with it. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for that, it's like I could see Viola Davis staying because she doesn't seem like tainted by the Snyderverse in any way.
No,
The
no.
way like even Margot Robbie does.
Right,
She
right.
may have to go. I mean, Momoa has to go. They all have to go because it, 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 there's some sort of like hanging on to these failed experiments as if someone's going to turn this ship around, or if they get rid of everybody, the fanboys, the Snyder fanboys, are going to never see DC movies again. And we all know that that doesn't happen. These characters are bigger than the actors.
Yep.
I mean, nobody ever said, it's not like Marvel was like, oh, we can't replace Dolph Lundgren as Punisher. There's no way. We can't recast Punisher. I guess that's the Punisher forever.
Right, right.
Or, the mime who played Spider-Man on Electric Company. Oh, we can't replace him. He's the Spider-Man.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
all
I
of
mean,
these
listen,
people,
Warner
none of these people are
Brothers.
stars, and they can all
Mhm.
be replaced.
Warner Brothers once replaced Michael Keaton as Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and we both will forever love Michael Keaton, one of the greatest talents in movies ever. But Michael Keaton was replaced on Batman, and people went to go see the next Batman movie starring
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer. They didn't go to see the next Batman movie after that, starring George Clooney, but it wasn't because their Batman was recast past the actors. There will be, and everyone get ready for what I'm about to say, prepare yourselves. There will be another Iron Man someday, not played by Robert Downey Jr. And guess what? That movie will be a giant hit, most likely, because
Absolutely.
it's fine. So,
And there's going to be a Wolverine that isn't Hugh Jackman, the same way that there is a Captain America that isn't J.D. Salinger's son, right?
right,
I mean,
right.
those are the things. I mean,
So with this, the this sort of cleaning house, obviously, like we said, there are DC films that were produced pre James Gunn that are locked and loaded and coming out. I mean, The Flash obviously being the biggest problem one. Who knows what they're going to end up doing with that? Just
mhm.
release it on Tubi,
Well, I
honestly.
think it's just going to be evidence. I mean, I think what it's going to end up being is just evidence in the big trial. I
Right,
mean,
right,
that's the best case scenario for the Flash is that there's a flashy trial
right,
and that is shown there, and that's where people see it. I mean, you might
right.
as well just show it on court TV.
Right, right. But you've got that, but you've got the Aquaman sequel with Jason Momoa that is gonna come out. You got the Shazam sequel starring Chuck that is gonna come out. And those movies, I think it does seem like those characters may end up getting recast, even though both of those first movies were actually hits. And people do like Jason Momoa's Aquaman, but like you said, there just might need to be a full cleaning house just to cut all ties with the Snyderverse stuff. I do think
Mm-hmm.
John Cena as Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad franchise and his HBO show, not just safe, but I think that's going to be one of the centerpieces because that's a James Gunn creation. He
Mm-hmm.
wrote and directed that Suicide Squad movie starring John Cena. He created and wrote the show. That's one of his guys. And listen, I think that is also part of why Dwayne the Rock Johnson is kind of publicly losing it over this Black Adam situation.
Oh yeah.
Is he's looking at the shakeout and he's seeing his old business partner John Cena, who's going to be a centerpiece of these DC films, and I think he sees the writing on the wall that Dave Bautista, who's a
Mm-hmm.
big star of the Guardians of the Galaxy films for James Gunn, is almost certainly going to just waltz over to DC and end up as a primo star character pretty soon
Well,
because he's a James Gunn guy. He stuck by James Gunn when James Gunn got fired from Disney back in the day. He's the breakout character of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Dwayne The Rock Johnson is seeing two former pro wrestling partners in Dave Bautista and John Cena who are lapping him
mm-hmm.
and outacting him and soon going to be big stars within DC films while his Black Adam is done is done.
I mean, it's a come to Jesus moment for him, and I'm using
I
that
hope
just as
so.
like a broad term for
Yeah,
whatever his, whatever he believes in.
right.
But it has to be because he can't live in this delusion. If he starts doing tweets like this,
Mhm.
he will be a laughing stock,
Mhm.
right? I mean, this has to be an outlier. This has to be like craziness. This has to be his slap. I mean, to be honest with you,
This has
this
to
has to
be
be his like, I lost it, guys. I'm
yep.
so sorry. And now I'm more centered. You know, I missed my cheat day. I did not get to eat 12 pizzas and 8 chocolate cakes. So, I went and I, did some deadlifts. I ate 5 chocolate cakes and 16 dozen sugar coated donuts, and now I'm feeling better and smarter. And you know what? Maybe I need to move on from DC. It's not my thing, but I got all these other projects.
Right, right.
Boom. There we
He
go.
This is his jumping on the couch. This is his
It
Tom
is.
Cruise jumping on the couch on Oprah
Yeah. Yep.
moment. And that was a tough moment for Tom Cruise. And
Yeah.
it put his career in a it's hard to say rough space because but it did.
It did.
That definitely stopped his meteoric rise for a bit, and then he righted the ship, and obviously now he's the biggest box office star in the world and should be up for best actor for his accomplishments. So these ships can be righted even after these dramatic moments. Yet to be seen where Will Smith goes from here, but this is that level. I agree, for Dwayne The Rock Johnson. This tweet is going to be something that changes the way people look at him. And he's going to have to take stock of this moment in time. And it could go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
He could right the ship and this becomes a blip, much like jumping on the couch was a blip for Tom Cruise, or he could find himself having a Mickey Rourke type back end of his career where
Oh my god! I mean, that's worst case scenario right there. I
it's
mean,
worst case scenario, but there's two roads he could go down. One road leads to Tom Cruise, Top Gun Maverick. One road leads to Mickey Rourke.
absolutely. Listen, that's a fork. He's gotta look at this fork. He's gotta see this fork.
Yeah.
If he doesn't see a fork right now, if all he sees is a straight line like a knife, if he sees a knife, he's in a bad place. He
Yeah.
needs to see a fork.
He needs to see a fork. And listen, we're rooting for him. I
You're
definitely
rooting
am.
for him.
Listen, I've been for a while now, I've been tough on Black Adam, and I've been honest about Black Adam, but that
Now, I mean, talk
honesty,
about spin. I
that
mean, listen, we're
honesty
talking
come
about this king of spin, The
fact,
Rock.
fact, tweeting out fact. I have been honest about Black Adam on this show many times. Fact,
I mean, our
fact. It's
wannabe
in the
boys,
numbers.
wannabe girls, wannabe people
People
know what you're doing. They understand what you're doing.
I'm talking
But for
facts.
new listeners, I am the one who always knew that this was a failure. Pat still held on to hope because he's less cynical than I am. Pat, I'm giving you congratulations for being less cynical. But at a point, reality did hit you in the face and you realized that this movie was a failure. And now it feels like it never could have been a success. So that's why you're dealing in this delusion right
Dealing
now.
in
I just want to make
facts.
sure.
Dealing in facts that I have been very honest about Black Adam and have been tough on it many
You've
times
always
on
been
this show.
honest, but you haven't been right up until now.
I've been
That's the
right on
thing.
this show week after week. I've been right on this show. That's a fact. So the thing is, I'm always rooting for Dwayne The Rock Johnson because been a fan of his for a long time. He's got it all. He's got the charisma. He's got the talents. Listen, he's not Laurence Olivier, obviously, but he doesn't need to
Mm-hmm.
be. But I think Black Adam shows he clearly needs to start picking just better movies, finding better movies, working with better directors and writers who he could give himself to, the way John Cena, Dave Bautista give themselves to auteurs like James Gunn, like Ryan Johnson. That it's something The Rock. If he this fork in the road, part of that fork should be he's looking down the road where he's working with directors who aren't just there to be his yes men, like the director he had on Black Adam and probably all of his movies from the last 5 years, but he's working with directors that could push him towards something new and interesting. So that's part of this fork here. But I
Yep.
mean, I think the bigger fork here is that statement and trying to get fans to care about ancillary revenues on his movies. I mean, he's just starting to speak a language that the average Joe Lunchpail and you know, Susie Sweat Hog and just the
Chrissy
workaday Joes and
Crochet.
Janes, they don't care about a movie star talking about ancillary revenue streams.
Yeah,
And
guess what,
it's
guys?
beneath
My
him.
movie made $75 million because at the end of the day, that's nothing when it comes to a movie. But that's money that the general audience will never even get close to seeing ever in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. A
Mm-hmm.
million dollars would be a dream to even be able to look at, let alone
Yes.
have.
In a museum.
So, in a
I would
museum,
love to look at
exactly.
$1 million in a museum.
Yes, absolutely. We all would, but that's
Yeah.
why it's such a delusional tweet.
Yeah.
So, Pat, because this is going to be an ongoing story, obviously. This
It's going to
DC
be,
stuff
do we
is
do
going to
we
be
want to quickly
fascinating.
touch on you know, the Wonder Woman aspect of it is
No, it
also.
doesn't matter. That movie is dead. It should be dead. 1984 was a disaster. It would have been a disaster even without the pandemic. It was fundamentally a poor follow up to a big hit movie. And I think that Gal Gadot is nothing without Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman will survive without Gal Gadot. I mean, I think this is just like the tip of the spear when it comes to who's going to get cut here. But I think we've talked about the important people in this, and I don't think Gal Gadot necessarily is all that important.
Yeah, I mean, I would push back a little bit on the, listen, Wonder Woman 1984. We both watched that together. Not a good movie. Most people seem to not like that movie, and obviously it came out December 2020, height of the pandemic, so its box office was what it was. But you know, the great Scott Mendelson does make that point that Wonder Woman 1984, you know, he said this a few times, would have done really well if it came out normally, because the first one was a giant hit. And that one, even though it wasn't as good as the first one, it was much worse. It still was a serviceable superhero movie. So the Wonder Woman thing, I get why they're recasting that if that's the way they're going, because they just want to wipe the slate clean with the Snyderverse. But
She's an
that
easy
second movie
cut
didn't have
after
an
that
honest
one.
chance, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, she's an easy cut. I mean,
So I mean, that to me is an interesting one to see where it goes, because Black Adam was the first movie that failed, as I've been saying week after week on the show. Wonder Woman, the first one was a gigantic hit, and then the second one didn't have a real release. So the fact that that is ending now, if that's the case, is I still think an interesting
but it's
story.
Pat. It's so long. Wonder Woman #1 is so long in the rear view when you think about it because of the delays with COVID. We're in a different world now.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman 1, we don't live in a Wonder Woman 1 world anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
ancient history.
Yeah.
So we remember it because we're old. But young people don't remember. I mean, that means nothing. The first Aquaman movie barely means anything to anyone, right? Because I think that you're falling into this trap of like that. Oh, but it wasn't that long ago. It is long ago in the cultural memory. And the more you say, well, wasn't that long ago, wasn't that long ago, the more people are going to hold on to these things. Get rid of Gal Gadot, get rid of Momoa, get rid of all these people. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
It doesn't matter.
The Aquaman thing though is the weirder one, because you're saying people don't remember it. There's another one coming out in the future. with
Great.
him.
And let it come out. And then if it's a hit, it's a hit. And then you move on from it. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. The way comic books work is that's how it works. People are
Hmm.
writers on a comic book for 50 issues, then they leave, someone else comes and people complain, but then they get on to the other thing. That's how these superhero movies work.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have to remember that's how they work. There's been freaking 3 Spider-Mans in the last 20 years. It's how it works.
Right, right,
All right?
right.
And that first Amazing Spider-Man was a hit. It wasn't it was a hit. So it doesn't matter. It's just like if you're changing the guard, change the guard,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
The people who are going to completely boycott DC because Momoa is no longer Aquaman could fit into a thimble
Right, right,
when it
right,
comes to the population of the US and the world. So it doesn't matter. Get rid of them all.
right. So you're saying though, like a thimble built to a larger scale.
Yeah, a thimble in the context of the like whole population.
Right, right. But still like a thimble that's probably the size of like a house at best.
Oh, I mean bigger than a house. I mean
Bigger
it's
than a house. Okay.
yeah, it's probably like as big as like a small state.
Got it. Okay, we'll try
But
and get
that's
it
nothing.
right. We'll try and get exact surface area of this thimble and put it in the show notes if we could do the math after the show.
Well, that
Uh
sounds like something for one of BO intern Christopher to do.
yes, yes, yes.
Now
That
we gotta
that's a perfect task. What do
we
we got
got
to do, Clayton? What do we want to
we
move
gotta
on
talk
to?
about Father Stew.
Okay.
We got to get to this weekend. Listen, and we can do it very quickly because according to Box Office Pro, the two releases, Father Stew Reborn, which we all know is a reconfigured PG, I think PG-13 version of Father Stew, which is a movie that came out earlier, I think last year, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
spoiler alert is expanding, which is a movie by starring that dude from Big Bang Theory
Right.
and directed by Michael Showalter, who
Mm-hmm.
directed Jessica Chastain to an Oscar last year.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are expected to sniff the top 5, and they're going to make less than $1 million. And I agree with this. I don't see either of these movies making any sort of dough. Maybe spoiler alert might make a little bit, but I think otherwise we just got to talk about whether or not Black Panther Wakanda Forever will make over $10 million this weekend.
Yeah, because the streak could end after just a couple of months, basically after just starting up again in September. The streak of there being at least one movie that makes double digit millions. That streak ended over the summer after
Mm-hmm.
going for basically since the beginning of the post-pandemic box office. And it ended after what was that, 2 years or so? And will it end this weekend? Will
That's the
Black
thing.
Panther make 10 million? Last weekend it made what, 16 million? Is that what it made
Mm-hmm.
to?
Something like that. 16 to 17, something like that.
Um and it's almost like our people, it made 17.5 million dollars last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the number 2 movie that came out last weekend, the first weekend of Violent Night, that movie made 13.4. It has no chance of making over 10. That would be a
I mean, it
hold.
would have to hold so spectacularly. I mean, we'd be talking about this like a Crazy Rich Asian sort of hold.
Right, right. So that's not going to happen. All the weight of the world is on the shoulders of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and 17.5 million. I am predicting here it's gonna pull it off. I do think this movie makes a little over $10 million this weekend.
Okay.
That because that's a drop of what? Like if it drops 40%, if it holds at 50, 60, if it holds at 60%, then it'll get to 10 million. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's doable for a movie in its fifth week because the drops usually start to level out a bit. And I think there's something to this weekend. People are gearing up to go see Avatar Way of Water, which opens
Mm.
next Friday. Um, and I think that this weekend will be some amount of people just getting themselves ready by going to see a blockbuster, which maybe they haven't seen yet or they're going to see again. And so I think a lot of people will go to see Wakanda Forever this weekend as practice for then going to see Avatar 2, The Way of Water next Friday. That's my
All right.
prediction. I think it'll
Getting
be
their
a
reps
pretty
in.
good weekend for Wakanda Forever. It'll be a lot of people, and I'm in that boat who I might see this weekend saying, you know what? If I don't
Why
see
would
it
you see
this
this
weekend,
weekend?
I may just do it. I have things going on, and
You're not going to see this movie this weekend, are you?
I may see it this weekend. And I do think that people are gonna say to themselves, if I don't see it this weekend, I'm probably never gonna see it in the theater.
Yeah,
So
this is
this
the
is the
last
time.
ditch.
Yeah.
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 So you say over 10.
Yes. I
You
say
think
over
keeping the
10.
streak alive.
Hmm.
How much over 10? You're saying 11?
I think it could hit 11, but I think it's going to be just right on that border. I think it does like 10.5 million. I think it just
Nice.
barely hits double digits, but I feel pretty confident it will.
Okay. Well, then, do you want to do your top five? Do you feel confident with your top five? Because I think this one is pretty simple.
Yes. I mean, the question is, will anything shift around? So, number one, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I think it does 10 million. Number two, Violent Night, David Harbour. You figure like a 60% drop on that movie. So, it's probably going to end up around 5 or 6 million. Number three, I think The Menu moves up to number three. I think The Menu moves up to three. Then number four is gonna have to be Strange World. And then number five, God, is it gonna be Devotion at number five? It's not gonna be I Heard the Bells, which was last week, number six. That was a Fathom event.
Is there a chance that all of this Black Adam talk drives anybody to the theater to see it?
Or does it drive people away and Black Adam just totally sinks? I'm
Yeah.
gonna say that's the case. I think that Devotion is number five, and I think Black Adam sinks down a bit because I think that tweet by Dwayne the Rock Johnson actually turns people off. I mean, now we're just talking stuff down at the bottom, but I could see the Fablemans leaping over Black Adam in the rankings this coming weekend.
I
We're
mean, I
talking
would.
about 6 and 7 there, but I think the Fablemans this weekend will make more than Black Adam.
I mean, I would say that I would boycott Black Adam, but I'm never going to see this movie, and I never plan to see it. So therefore, the boycott would mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in there, that tweet was boycott level.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, maybe I'll
Mm-hmm.
just boycott all rock movies. That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is also going to make over 10.
Great.
I think it's overperformed in the past couple weekends. It's still doing solid business. So I'm going to say it's going to make 11. I'll
Mm-hmm.
go with you on that. Violent Night, I think, is a slam doink number two. I mean, I think one and two are slam doinks here.
Mm-hmm.
I still think Strange World is going to make more than The Menu.
Okay.
So I'm going to have Strange World at three. I mean, this thing is no great shakes, but it is still going to be the number three movie. Then The Menu, which is still going
Mm-hmm.
to be holding very well. And then Devotion. I do believe Devotion is going to be number five. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the top five. We only deviated a little bit from each other, but yeah, Pat, wow, what a packed show. What a shocking turn of events. What an interesting storyline to follow. what a reason to listen to us every week
Yes.
and
Yes.
email us. And Pat, where can people email us?
You could email us at theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. We love getting your emails, reading your emails, hearing from you, boots on the ground reporting. Wannabe oh boy Christopher, not to be confused with wannabe oh intern Christopher. He asked us via email if we were going to talk about the DC news, and wannabe oh boy
Oh,
Christopher, I hope you're satisfied, with us devoting a whole show to it. But it was great seeing people email us and tweet at us, hey, you're going to talk about this. Hey, have you seen this? It really showed that people needed what we gave them this episode. And I hope this got them through the turmoil of the last few days.
and we did get a great email, and we're not going to go into this right now because I think it needs to be talked about more.
Mm-hmm.
And this emailer knows who they are. It's about Black Panther, and I think this is
Mm-hmm.
something we can talk about on our Monday episode when we have more time, because The Rock kind of came in and just threw a wrench in Father Stu didn't get his due.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about this email, and it will be talked about because I think it's a great important email, and we will talk about it on Monday.
Great. Yeah, because I have a feeling Monday is going to be us putting a bow on all of our Black Panther Wakanda Forever talk. It's going to be number one, and we'll get to this email on Monday about Black Panther.
Yeah, it's
And
too important to not give a full attention to.
Yes, yes, yes. So something to look forward to on Monday's episode. And of course, next week is going to be huge. We're going to have our episode talking about this weekend. Did Black Panther Wakanda Forever keep the streak going and make 10 million? But we're also going to be right here next week previewing the release of Avatar 2, The Way of Water. That comes out next Friday, December 16th. So get ready for it. A lot of talk, a lot of analysis. You will need to hear what the BO boys say about the upcoming premiere of the second Avatar movie, which, God help us, comes and saves the box office, because we need it right now.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that's coming up. But until then, of course, you could email us, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at theboboyspod. A lot of great excerpts going up there every day from wannabe intern Christopher.
Yes.
Not to be confused with wannabe boy Christopher, who is someone else, but wannabe intern Christopher, just killing it on Twitter, on our social media. And there will be announcements of stuff to come, new channels, new ways that you could follow us, perhaps some live events online, all in the planning stages now. So follow us on Twitter at the BO Boys Pod.
And if you need more of us,
Yeah.
we also have another podcast that we're
Yes.
on, right?
Yes.
It's a entertainment award show gambling podcast.
That we've done 2 episodes of it, and I feel like that is the premise. So it actually, as of this date, has not dropped yet. So we've recorded a few episodes with the great Nick Turner, who everyone knows as the star of Killer Raccoons 2, Dark Christmas in the Dark. Back in the summer 2020, it was the #1 comedy film in America. And
he was making him the #1 comedy star.
Yep. And longtime friend and creative partner of ours, Nick Turner. So the three of us have gotten together. It is called The Show Me the Money, and it is a podcast that will be on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. So you can right now subscribe to the podcast feed for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That is where this show will end up any day now. And every week on that show, the BO Boys and Nick Turner are basically going to be traveling the road to the Academy Awards and going through all the precursor award shows, covering what the nominations and the wins are shaping up to be, and also gambling along the way, and teaching you where you should gamble, because the main thrust of that show is everyone should gamble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you could find the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and at some point the Show Me the Money with Nick Turner and the BO Boys will be a thing on there. It's coming any minute now.
Yes. So when it does appear, the link will be in the show notes.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Pat. Well, I don't think there's anything left to say
No.
except for until next time.
Will
Smell
smell
you
you
at